Although I tell a story, John F. Kennedy, the president at the time in the 60s, had this problem. And the first time that he made a decision, he made it badly, and it was called the Bay of Pigs. And it was a
Oh,
disaster. Right? It was a
okay.
disaster. And he broke basically all the rules, right? They didn't check what people said. They just believed that it was true. He was in meetings where he would affect things just through his body language. Um, they would then sort of talk through stuff and then change things, but not go back and have it see what ripple effects those changes had. So it is a quintessential disaster, and most people talk about it as a horrible um, for many reasons. It didn't work out well. But to his credit, he said, "Look, I don't want to ever do that again." And so he came up with a different decision process. And just weeks later, maybe a few months later, he had to have another big decision, which was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. And he went from that other process where it was just sort of a free for all and no sort of rigor or process to it, to a much more rigorous process where he said, all right, let's figure out all the things that we could do. And they said, it's sort of a brainstorming model. And then they basically said, we have lots of things we could do, but it's two things that we think are the best possible opportunities, which is basically, do we invade or do we blockade? And he said, great. All of those who want to, sort of do the invade thing, let's get you together. I want you to go think about it and come back with the plan. Those of you who want to blockade, same thing. And let's present that. And while they
Oh,
were doing all that, he kept himself out of the process because he knew that if he just sort of nodded his head or anything, he was going to signal his either pleasure or displeasure to the thing, and it would affect their thinking, and he didn't want to do that. The other thing he did, which was really smart, is and I think it's called the Red Team. He kept Bobby, his brother, and two other people that he trusted out of the entire process. And they were not invited in until the end. And their job was to poke holes in things without any bias um, to to um, to the process.
that sounds
So
like
then he
the
hadn't.
perfect job.
Yeah, right. Especially if you love that kind of stuff. What he also did is he said, "Great." So they presented their stuff and they debated it, and he said, "Great. Now switch teams. Now I want you who are on the blockade to do the invade, etc." And then they had to present again as if that was their plan. So he
Well,
started to let everyone see perspective both sides, right? So they were a little more open minded when they finally came down to it.